Hi Jack, I'm Macy. Thank you so much for joining me here in Brunswick, Maine. Today we're discussing PFAS and specifically the aqueous film forming foam, commonly known as AFFF, that was accidentally spilled here last August. Since you've done extensive research on PFAS, I thought your insights would be incredibly helpful as we try to understand the full impact.
Hi Macy. Yes, I've spent a lot of time researching these chemicals. PFAS stands for per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, and it's a term used to describe a large group of synthetic compounds with carbon-fluorine bonds. There are thousands of different kinds of PFAS. They're highly resistant to heat, water, and grease, which makes them incredibly useful in products like waterproof fabrics and firefighting foams. But that same persistence in the environment is exactly what makes them such a problem.
Thanks for explaining that. As you know, AFFF contains PFAS, and last August, a fire system malfunction occurred at Brunswick Executive Airport that released 1,450 gallons of AFFF concentrate that mixed with 50,000 gallons of water. After cleanup efforts, this still resulted in over 30,000 gallons of contaminated water ending up in the environment. Given your expertise in PFAS, how do you think this spill will impact the local community?
That's a huge concern. PFAS are persistent. They don't break down easily. When they enter the environment, they can linger for decades, cycling between soil, water, and even air. As you mentioned, the spill in Brunswick released a substantial amount of contaminated water. What makes it worse is that PFAS can bioaccumulate in wildlife, especially in aquatic organisms like fish and shellfish. Given the reliance of Maine's coastal economy on these species, the impact on the local food chain could be significant.
Exactly. The spill not only threatened the ecosystem, but it also put public health at risk. The contamination can seep into groundwater, which might affect private wells in the area. I know PFAS are linked to health issues like cancer and birth defects, and I'm worried about the long-term exposure for people in the community. Do you think the full extent of the health impacts is known yet?
Unfortunately, no, and that's the scary part. PFAS accumulate in the human body over time, and because they don't break down, the effects can last for decades. Research has linked long-term exposure to a range of serious health conditions, including cancer and developmental issues. While some health impacts are already documented, the full scale of risk is still being studied. The challenge is that even though PFAS use has been restricted in consumer products since the early 2000s, they continue to persist in legacy materials like AFFF, which complicates cleanup efforts.
I completely agree. In Brunswick, cleanup crews worked hard to contain the foam, but much of it still entered the ecosystem. Beyond immediate remediation, what kinds of long-term solutions do you think are necessary to tackle PFAS contamination?
There's a lot of work to be done. First, we need to better understand the extent of the contamination through consistent environmental monitoring and sampling. That's where the work being done by local researchers and government agencies is so valuable. Mapping out how PFAS moves through the environment is very important. PFAS is typically removed using methods like carbon filtration, ion exchange, and reverse osmosis, but these can be costly and can't remove 100% of the PFAS in water. While technology will continue to improve, ultimately, the biggest way to mitigate PFAS pollution is to stop further contamination.
That's really helpful, Jack. One thing I've been thinking about is the role of public awareness in all of this. People are starting to realize the dangers of PFAS, but there's still a lot of education to be done, especially in communities impacted by spills. For example, following this bill, 3 new legislative proposals were brought before Congress, focusing on AFFF buyback programs and creating an inventory of persistent firefighting foams currently in use across Maine. In your opinion, how important is public education in situations like these?
Public education is key. Many people still don't fully understand the risks PFAS pose, especially in relation to everyday products and environmental contamination. When communities are informed, everyone is safer. Raising awareness is one of the most powerful tools we have.
I couldn't agree more. It's going to take a lot of combination of science, community engagement, and policy change to address this issue. Thank you for all this insight, Jack. It's really helping me think about this issue more holistically, from the science behind PFAS to the policies we need to address it. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Macy. I'm glad to be a part of the conversation. It's going to take continued collaboration to make progress, and awareness like this is a great first step.